Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back ahead of that crunch weekend. Yes, the crunch weekend many, of course, are referring to, talking about, and what it's got in store. Of course, we've got Aston Villa to come on Sunday in Spurs' second cup game of the week. We're here to give your thoughts, give your views, and give everything about Tottenham where we are right now. Helping me do that on this Last Word on Spurs, I'm joined by three fabulous talkers in the game. I'm joined by musician. He's a man of many, many talents. Normally lets the fireworks off when he's on this show. We've got the wonderful Jah Wobble on the show. Jah, thank you so much. Joining Jah, we're joined by the wonderful David over at the Irish Hotspur. Bless us with his presence, I think 3 times in a week. God, he'll be charging us soon on an invoice at this rate. And also back on the show, never a dull moment. Look, we've swapped his brother. We've brought the other one back. He was here around the transfer deadline period. We've got him back for more. We've got the wonderful Ashmatic over at the Spurs Kings. I must say at the top of the show, yes, I'm aware we need to allow comments in some of the other platforms. We're going to be working on that for you as we go during this show. Look, big show in store as we look ahead to how big that Aston Villa game is now for Ange Postecoglou, for Tottenham Hotspur, of course, after that devastating, crushing 4-0 defeat to Liverpool in that Carabao Cup second leg. We'll be getting the fallout from that, Ange Postecoglou's presser, and how big now that Villa game is for Tottenham to try and get some form of this season back on track, which feels that is quite simply, dying in front of our eyes right now this season. We know how tough it's been. I know many, for a lot of people out there, had aspirations of the Cups being such an important nature for Tottenham. If you don't mind, Dave, I'm going to come over to you to open because, look, I think just to go back and revisit a little bit of that Liverpool game, not that we want to go back into it too much and look forward rather than back. Look, whilst there's no shame, of course, losing a knockout tie to Liverpool, I think the manner of that performance deeply dismayed a lot of Spurs fans out there. You know, I think it's fair to say that the Postecoglou brief, the ethos, the project is always about being brave, being bold, and really Spurs were neither. We didn't take the game to the opposition. The performance was anything but. Really, it was timid, it was meek, it was terrifying at times. We barely laid a glove on, of course, Liverpool. I just wonder how much you're concerned about the nature of that game and that result and how much that does impact us ahead of a massive game now against Villa, of course, on Sunday.
Look, I think going into the game, I think every Spurs fan realised the magnitude of the task. It was always going to be a tall order. And we were always going to look to go there first and try and contain what we got. But I have a few issues with last night for me. I'm very disappointed in terms of Postecoglou and the tactics. You know, I have no problems with us going there to sit there and contain. But again, like the North London derby, what's the outball for when we do get possession? How are we going to get out? How are we going to get ourselves up the field and look to carve Liverpool open? It didn't look like there was any clear plan. It looked like we're just relying on individuals for moments of brilliance, like you're relying on Son to do what he done against Burnley all them years ago with that Puskas award-winning goal. You know, there's no real patterns of play. There's no fluidity to the movement. It's not good on the eye. You've seen the picture of Daniel Levy sleeping there. That's what most of us fans feel like watching Tottenham Hotspur over the last few months. It's nowhere near good enough. You know, I almost found myself jealous of watching Liverpool and almost getting more angry the more I was watching them, because with Liverpool, you could see a team that, you know, going forward, there's clear movement off the ball, there's fluidity in their play, there's link-up play. They have clear plans. There's players coming towards the balls, players running in behind. With Tottenham Hotspur, we don't see that, and we haven't seen that under Ange Postecoglou since he's come. It almost feels like when we get the ball into the forward areas, we're clueless. Now, how much of that is down to the departure of Harry Kane? We were always going to, you know, feel an effect to a large degree, but going forward, we wouldn't. You could see the trouble arising very earlier on in the first half when we had no outball getting at Liverpool. You could see us struggling. And then you go into some of the players. I mean, for me, I was very let down by some of the senior players last night. The likes of Yves Bissouma. You know, I know people are going to say it's harsh to call him out for that pass, but the reality is he made that pass. Papamata Sarr and Son were gone thinking he could find them. And then all of a sudden, Liverpool used that space that they left and that they vacated, and they absolutely punished us. And with Yves Bissouma, it's not the first time we've seen this in a big game. You go back to the North London Derby. He lost the ball in the middle of the park. They went up the other end and scored against Chelsea. He gave away a penalty and gave them a way back into the game. And I believe when he gave that penalty away against Chelsea, I think Jamie Carragher says some of the stuff I see Tottenham players do on the pitch is absolutely mind-boggling. I don't think it sums up someone like Yves Bissouma, but I think it sums up Tottenham in general, some of the mistakes we make. A big game like that, it's getting to the point you actually can't trust Yves Bissouma in these big games. You just can't now. He's a liability. You look at Son last night, toothless. And what summed it up for me with Son, first of all, we struggled to get the ball, but when we did, there was no quality, there was no real end product off the end of it. But what summed up Son for me last night, and summed up the game in general, was there was a 50-50 tackle between him and Mo Salah. Son went into it and tried to kick the ball and jump out of the way. That's your captain. That displays weakness. It's a sign of, you could take it as a sign of someone that doesn't care. I'm not going to accuse Son of that, but I grew up in a day where my captain goes through that player. He goes and tries and wins that ball, not pulls out. And that sets the tone for everybody else around. It shows a lack of fight, a lack of hunger, a lack of desire. And then you go on to Ben Davies, another senior player last night. I thought he'd done very well up until he made that mistake. But again, it's not the first time we've seen him make mistakes in big games for Tottenham Hotspur. It was him that gave away that ball that ended up leading to that penalty for that second goal, right after half time. Your experienced players are letting you down in big moments of the game. And then what you're seeing is a knock-on effect to every other young player around them who's looking up to these guys for experience, for the know-how in these sort of occasions. And all of a sudden, they started looking a bit more erratic, a bit more nervous. And once the second goal went in, we just lacked belief, we lacked fight, we lacked hunger. And I know a lot of people are angry with, the lack of maybe what they perceive to be passion on the football pitch, or a lack of desire, lack of hunger, lack of fight. But the reality is, it all stems back to there was just a distinct golfing class on the football pitch. You look at Liverpool compared to us last night, it was men v boys. They popped the ball around us. They were looking like Real Madrid. We could not get near them. You said it yourself, Ricky. Couldn't lay a glove on them last night. They were just popping it around, ripping us open at will. And let's be brutally honest, that could have been 5-6, 7-0 last night. And it's nowhere near good enough from anybody, from the manager or from them players out there last night. But you know what? You want to put it into a football club's context? We were here similar in under Antonio Conte against Chelsea, outclassed again. Just don't have the players on the pitch when it comes to these big moments to be able to really ever truly go and compete with these guys on a head-to-head basis. People can moan we didn't go head-to-head with them last night. We don't have the quality to. When you can't make two passes, you don't have the quality to go head-to-head with these guys. And what it means in terms of heading into the Villa game, it ramps up the pressure on it, doesn't it? Ramps up the pressure on the players and the manager. I think it puts the manager under a lot of scrutiny heading into this weekend. I thought it was interesting that he said coming into this game that he's going to get back to playing his way. Well, that's just screaming to me that he's already lost his way and that now he's trying to get back to what he wants to do. But that for me smells danger. I think it's a must-win this weekend, Ricky.
Yeah, I think it is a must-win game. I think we can't put in a similar performance to what we saw against Liverpool. And I want to bring Jar in a second, but Ash, I need to go to you if you don't mind, because I think Liverpool were probably stunned, Ash, as to how easy it was for them in the nature of the game. And I think everyone that knows our record at Anfield, it's not great. And I must apologise, can I just say, in the post-match show that I kept on saying that the aggregate was 5-1. I don't know why I did that. I think I just lost my mind on the game itself. And I think I'm just all over the place right now on Tottenham. I think we've all had bad days at the office. But I think, Postecoglou's side, given the fact they've scored 4 against Liverpool in the nature of the last few weeks, I think to go there and deploy a low block, which Ange Postecoglou had to say again, Ange has been absolutely adamant. He did not ask the players to set up in the way they did. They seemed to go and do that on the field. Screams to me that there are certain players there that are not listening to instruction. And I made that point, Ash, that, this is a version of Tottenham that was very meek. It was mild. It was in keeping really with Spurs sides in the past. And whether it was just the fact we were going to Anfield, facing Liverpool, we were jittery, we were careless. There was really nothing from the get-go that suggested that we were ever going to really give Liverpool a fight. And I think the crazy thing is that, that was an opportunity there that we actually went in there with an aggregate lead. Anyone would have thought we were 3 or 4 down to begin with. I don't know, Ash. For me, I'm at a point now where, and I will come on to this in a bit of a wider debate. Do I think Ange Postecoglou is the long-term answer for Tottenham? No, I don't. But I don't think at this stage in the season, anybody of any real credibility is going to take this job, Ash. And that, I think, is where I'm at right now. What do you feel, Ash, before I bring Jar in as well?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like it was a bit of a deflection from Ange Postecoglou coming out saying that, he didn't tell the players to set up in that way. And I'm not solely blaming Ange Postecoglou for the loss. No way, you can't, because the players didn't do what he asked, and the players put in this poor performance. Let's have it right. Do you understand? So I do understand the concerns where fans are like, if you lose Postecoglou, Mason comes in, or Matty Wells comes in, or who can we get that's as good as Ange? But the problem is, at the moment, the way the results are going, I think a lot of fans were kind of pinning their hopes in the cups. And now we're out of a semi-cup final, and the way we capitulated and the manner of the loss, that is a hard one to stomach for a lot of Spurs fans. Now, my question for Ange Postecoglou is, if you didn't want them to play like that, the team you picked, the team you selected on the day, for me, when I first put eyes on the lineup, screamed pragmatism. I thought that team was going to set up in a defensive way. What do I mean by that? I mean, not including Pedro Porro as a right back. I do understand his performances have been quite poor of late, but including Gray said to me that you're going to be a lot more defensive in that area. If I look at the two players, I think Gray's a bit more the defensive fullback out of him, and Porro. Porro's a lot more attacking. So I'm like, all right, cool, fair enough. I do understand the mindset or the thinking of the manager. Maybe he wants to be a bit more solid, and Gray's a bit more defensive aware. He's got a bit more height on him. He can defend corners, etc. So you're willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Where I have more of an issue is in the midfield. For me, Bentancur and Bissouma, pretty much hot and cold, both of them. You just don't know what you're going to get from them game by game. A lot of people have been going at Bissouma, and rightly so, like Dave's already mentioned. I'm not going to go over that again. But Bentancur, for me as well, sometimes he has great performances and he looks like the ones that's going to sit in. And then there's other times where you're just not quite sure, like what he's doing on the ball, how he's defending the ball, etc. And my biggest thing was those two players in particular, they went hiding. I needed someone to step up, to get on the ball and make themselves known. And I couldn't tell who was the one that was going to sit in and who was going to be the more aggressive one to press out of the two of them. So that's where I was confused. And then you've got Sarr. Sarr, obviously, he's going to be the one more aggressive, maybe pressing from the front. But again, you're looking at players that have very similar, I would say, profiles in terms of winning the ball up, ball high up, being aggressive, and playing as a central midfielder. Some people call it the number 8. So there wasn't much difference. And if you're going against Liverpool, and as Dave's already said, when we have possession, what are those 3 midfielders going to do? Because you need one that's going to sit, one that's going to be a battle axe, and one that's going to create. So you want your team to turn the defense into attack. And I couldn't tell who was doing what in that team because everyone went missing. So that's what my biggest issue was, and that's down to Ange Postecoglou. And now, when he did change that midfield, he brought on Bergvall, and then he moved Kulusevski into that more advanced position. But then you left Bentancur by himself. So it's almost like we went the flip reverse, and that's what opened up more spaces in behind. And then they just picked us off from there because we had no protection for those 2 centre-backs. So then you're looking at it tactically, Ange, what are you doing? Like, I know you're chasing a game, but there's no balance in that midfield. And I felt like we could have had a more balanced midfield going into it. And as the game wore on, we still could have had a bit more balance. He went too defensive and he went too attacking. And I thought that's where he got found out a little bit. Then, if you look at the front 3, Richie's only outball is that he likes to fall on the floor. And that's how we win the free kick, and that's how we move up the pitch. In terms of the ball sticking to him, yes, it stuck to him a couple times, but we need more from your front man. The amount of times he just cannot read the line. He's constantly getting offside. So that's breaking our attacks down, even when we do have the ball, because they're looking to pass it into the striker and he's not in the right position. So then on the right-hand side, you've got Kulusevski. He lacks that pace and that threat in behind. So he's not really a runner. So even if he wanted to sit in a low block or mid block, then play a ball direct and run in behind and stretch the defense, you couldn't do that with Kulusevski. So then you've got a profile missing. And I'm hearing people, we've got the injuries. That's the reason why. But my thing is, we could have set up a little bit different. and use different players to utilize the system. We didn't have to go a 4-3-3 or a 4-2, I don't know, 1-3, whatever you want to call it. We didn't have to set up the way we set up. Looking at the players that we had available, he could have tweaked certain tactics. Now we know Son going out wide, he's not a person that's going to be a winger that hugs the touchline. He brought on Tell, and now you've got a striker that can't really hold it up in the middle, but he plays not on the left wing either. So you're not even solving that problem because he's more of an inside forward. So he profiles similar to Son, where he hasn't got the physical attributes to kind of hold on to the ball. So then you've got the same issue there again.
Yeah.
So then now you're looking at the macro issue where you're like, what was the board doing in terms of recruitment, in terms of buying wingers or players that can stretch to play? If that's what you want to do, you want to have a 4-3-3 and you're having players to open up the game and hit teams on a counter attack and be fast in transition. Well, where was the recruitment there? Do you know what I mean? But we all know the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the six. We all know that is the defensive midfielder is the biggest problem. And that going back to that Basuma point, it was like Kulusevski played a hospital ball into him. He's taken the baggy touch. And instead of him passing that ball back where it came from, he's passed it into Sar. Sar's already moved from where he was, where like it was just decision making under pressure, terrible. They knew when to press us. And it's like they looked at where are our weaknesses? Where are our players? What are they not good at? And then they capitalize on that. Whereas we did none of that. I didn't even look at and say, you know what? Robertson, he's been up and down. Let's focus on that Robertson. They knew Son in that defensive third. When we're in the build-up, Bradley knows if he lays into him, there's a hard challenge on him, that Sonny's not going to want it. Do you know what I mean? And that's
on these points, actually, I think you make so many valid points there in terms of the setup, the way we try to make our approach. I think the problem is right now, as you know, there's such a defined, I want to come back around to you actually in a second, there's such a defined split on where we are right now with regards to, as you've touched upon there, the manager set up, the tactics being deployed, how we're trying to deploy things. I mean, John, let me bring you in here. I know, like I say, bless you, it's been a while since you've been back on here. I want to say welcome back, but I know it's not a happy time to be a Spurs fan right now. I know that you've seen this team and supported this team for many, many years. Look, there's no doubt about it. And just to touch on Ash's point there, look, we have had, we've got 10 players unavailable right now. It's now 11 with Richarlison going down. And that was, as many would argue, and I think as Ash said, a real pragmatic lineup he could put out there. We decided to sit back in that first, 45 of the game. You'd say second half, he went for a bit more. And obviously us going for a bit more meant there was gaps, which allowed Liverpool to pick us off. But where are you for you, Jar, in terms of the way we approach that game against Liverpool? Because you've seen many semi-finals supporting Tottenham. I presume you're not been too surprised because you've seen us play like this many times in semi-finals.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to say. I don't know if it's possible now so many of these games are nightmares now. And we've all seen this going back many years from before Enix time, even, where we crumble in these big games, just don't show up. It's a psychological thing. It first started happening in the 70s, actually, with Tottenham. But to go on about last night, it has to be done. It's like we're standing on top of a hill, watching a big battle take place, some big medieval battle or whatever, and we're seeing troops just bomb forward. First of all, defending badly. They don't dig in properly. They get overrun. It's not so much just the tactics that are applied on the day, but how well were the troops trained? What fighting spirits do the troops have? And what gets me with Tottenham, we end up having these debates. Only at Tottenham would you have debates that are so basic. Is it good to defend? Do you really need to keep your guard up in boxing when only Tottenham? And we've had that before in Ozzy Ardina's era. But this period, I've never known. Do any of you three know a season that's been this bad? This much drama?
Not domestically like this in terms of the injuries. No.
Well, the injuries. Very interesting article in the Guardian.
Apart from last season with injuries. Yeah.
Well, there you go. But there was an interesting article by Jonathan Lew. I think it was in the Guardian. He's a Tottenham fan, and he talks about how Liverpool. One of the main factors that come into play when they recruited Slot from Feyenoord was his injury record. That he hadn't had that many injuries in his time there, and he hasn't had at Liverpool. And I think the world is sitting up now in the world of football, looking at this pressing game, the pressing game, these super fast transitions, defenders having to hurtle back from the halfway line all the time. And now, of course, they do twice as many sprints to defenders because of VAR. The flag doesn't go up early. They've got to sprint all the way back over and over. And it's this all has to be factored in, you know. It's so rotten. It's so in football you need a lot of money and a bit of sense, or you need a lot of sense and a bit of money, a lot of sense, lots of money, a little bit of sense, but you know, both things. And at Tottenham, you know, they've not thrown a lot of money at the squad over the years. We know that they've not gone for the top players. When you look at the league, the wage bill of football clubs, the league table of wage bill, there you go, is the same as it's pretty identical to the actual league positions. And we've never spent big money. And on the other end, we've had patches where we've recruited properly, but lo and behold, when we have had good recruitment going on, I believe people end up leaving the club and going. There's some of the recruitment people that are Liverpool now, I believe, were at Tottenham formerly, you know. And so we don't see when the little periods we have when we are recruiting well, going back Daniel Comolli, we've had some gems come in. The main or that Mitchell guy, he didn't stick about, you know. So it looks like years too late. They're starting to get into this thing of clever recruitment using stats and all that. And then just as everybody else stops doing this mad all-on pressing game and this is now the era of tactical nuance, where you have clever managers like Areola changing their tactics 2 or 3 times. You know, this is one of the things with really good footballers. Not only are they technically good, they're tactically good. They know what systems to, you know, when they get an instruction to switch to 5 at the back or whatever, they know what they're doing. No nuance at Tottenham. So we've got this really quite naive debate. It's either all out attack, like yesterday, all out defence, right, now all out attack. There's no nuance, there's no mix up. A good boxer at that kind of elite level will mix it up, you know. We're like a boxer that's come out at times this season, throwing tons of combinations. We've caught the opposition cold. We look fantastic because we're in the first round and we're knocking a bloke all over the place. But when it's a canny boxer that's ready for us and ready to be canny with us, we can't handle it. So we've lost against Palace, we lost against Ipswich, you know. I mean, this is relegation form. And, you know, I'm loath to sort of just have a go at the manager because for me, it comes from the very top.
From the very
and
top.
I don't believe we've got an owner who really passionately cares about the football the way we all do, you know. And the points come for me now, by the way, where I'm not too old to go on marches and all that. But the Leicester game at home was the first game where I'm on my way to the game, and I just think, you know what, I can't be bothered with it today. And I'm live up north half the time, so it's not like I'll go a short distance. The last time that happened was the end of Glenn Hoddle's tenure when we played Blackburn Rovers at home and got beat 4-0. You start to kind of just think this is just not fun. It's ugly because we're paying such big money now. You know, you're paying top money. So you've got every right, if you're paying top dollar, to get top class entertainment to some extent, you know? And that's not happening. So I'm afraid you have to go back to the primary source all the time. You know, you can't, and that's quite a healthy thing recently. All eyes are on Ennick now, on Levy. You know, you now hear the main people on TalkSport, mainstream sports broadcasts, you know, it's a subject that comes up on a daily basis now. So you see people like Simon Jordan to some extent sticking up for Levy, given the owner's perspective. He was a football owner for a while, you know, football club owner. But most of the punters are kind of against it. But you end up with this now, with karma coming to fruition. All these little primary purposes, secondary factors, end up with an absolute shit show like last night. And do you know what? I know a lot of Scousers. I get on with Scousers. To me, Scousers' nearest thing to the East End was growing up as a kid. And I spend a lot of time in Liverpool, got family there and all that. And they were offended last night by Tottenham.
By the way, we tried to play the game.
They just thought they felt it was almost weird, like they couldn't really look me in the eye. They just felt bad They would feel
It was
bad for me.
too easy, wasn't it, John? It was too easy. It was too easy. It wasn't.
Well, I remember going to Liverpool with my boy, and they were playing a schoolboy, like Stockport schoolboys against Liverpool,
Yep.
and there's a
Yep.
real edge there. It was
Yep.
very, I mean, it's great. It's so, really aggressive and controlled aggression, but they're not mucking about in Liverpool. The
Yep.
culture, and
Yep.
they were disgusted at Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
Disgusted. And I went to Goodison Park the other week for the Everton game, and days before they were very concerned, and I said, "Don't worry, you'll win today at a canter." And they were moaning about Dominic Norman, Calvert-Lewin hadn't scored any goals. I said, "He will score today." And they were like that. I said, "No, he will score today," and he did, and they won.
Yeah, this is
at a canter, and they too were just like, "Wow, what a terrible team!" There were Evertonians around me. I was sitting with them all, actually laughing. They were laughing at what they were watching.
It goes back to this debate that we need to have here, Joel, with regards to how many do feel right now, with regards to how big this next couple of days is for Tottenham. Again, we're recording now on the eve of the Aston Villa game in the FA Cup, which for many, they saw it, Dave, coming into it as an absolute crunch week. You said in your opening intro there, Dave, that you, at the moment, slightly perplexed in terms of where we're currently at with regards to Ange Postecoglou. I think John makes that really important point that we're probably at this point because, number one, has Ange got all the players that he's wanted to get? I don't think he has. I think, number two, there's been at times a real stubbornness in the way he's tried to approach the games. I will just say that again, for fair balance here, he made it absolutely clear after the game that he did not tell the player to set up in the way that they set up against Liverpool, which seems to indicate that the players aren't listening to his instructions, which again would be alarm bells ringing. But I think we're in a difficult period, aren't we, Dave, where the reality is we know, for those that out there that want a direct change of manager right now, with regards to taking Ange Postecoglou out and having somebody come in, I don't think you're going to get the likes of an Iriola, a Thomas Frank, a Marco Silva that will even look at the job right now. So then the other alternative is that you're looking at Ryan Mason, Matty Wells to take it over to the end of the season. Look, in my opinion, I don't see there's going to be any real uplift in those two individuals coming in to take the role. So where I am right now, and I've felt this way for a while, is that I would now maybe just let the season come to an end. And then hopefully in the summer, there'll be a conversation had behind the scenes where, look, can I be honest with you? I don't think Ange Postecoglou's enjoying it, being at Tottenham. I look back at those scenes, actually, and you'll know this, Dave, with your connections with Ireland and seeing a lot of the scenes even in Scotland as well. That guy was worshipped in Scotland. They were singing his name every week. He was going over to the fans at the end of every game. With Tottenham, no disrespect to him, at Anfield, obviously after the game, Ange didn't want to go towards the fans because he knows right now he's not their best friend. And he's copying it wherever he goes. I think since that Bournemouth game, there's been that real uneasy feeling between him and the away fans. He knows that people don't really maybe fancy him as a whole. And I just think, look, I feel sorry for him as well, because I've said this a lot. He's not the last Spurs manager to be let down. They've all been let down in recent years, from Pochettino right through to Nuno, to Jose Mourinho, to Antonio Conte. I just feel, look, I don't look like he's enjoying it right now. He's admitted on numerous occasions that he has failed to unite the football club in all areas. And I've said it before now, Dave, and I've said it to you again on previous shows. The job of being the Tottenham Hotspur manager, in my opinion, is now, under this current ownership, it's impossible to do a good job. It is actually impossible to succeed here in terms of the constraints, in terms of the restrictions put on you. But all I can say is that in anybody that's had any real kind of decent period under this ownership, and you have to probably go back to Maurizio Pochettino, they were able to show a level of flexibility, adaptability, get the best out of the players they've got in terms of a coaching aspect. And look, whilst I think we've had some fabulous results under Ange Postecoglou, I do not think we're going to buy the players that Ange Postecoglou needs to get the way he wants his Tottenham team to play. And I just feel this is coming to a head where at the end of the season, I think they'll probably go their separate ways. I mean, Dave, what's your take right now on where we stand? Because that is a really big debate that everyone's having in the Spurs community right now in regards to the manager.
Look, I'm sort of at the point, it's going to come to an end, whether it's after this weekend or whether it's come towards the end of the season. I don't think he will see the end of the season. they sacked Conte when there was nothing left to play for, and we sort of had a bit of stability in the league. They still done the same to Jose Mourinho in terms of the cup final, but in terms of the league, again, there's a bit of stability there. So I think at some point this is going to come to a natural end. But I do agree with you in terms of I do think Postecoglou looks resigned to it as well. You look at his press conferences, his demeanour just around the place. He doesn't look anyone in the eye. He's looking down. He's mumbling a lot of the time. There's not really much conviction in what he's saying anymore. You look at his interviews that he was given when he first came compared to now. They're night and day. And again, I just think it's evidence of a football club taking its toll on another manager. And I think to a point, managing at Tottenham Hotspur is becoming the impossible job. It's becoming the poison chalice, because you've got the media telling you everything you're trying to do is completely wrong, questioning you, calling you out. You've got the fan base doing the exact same thing. And then you're also out there in the public trying to protect the ownership, but then internally they're also not giving you what you want. Why I think this is coming to an end as well is I look at our squad right now, and me, Ricky, I've always said that I don't think the transfer business matches up with what Postecoglou's looking for. You look at the squad right now, when we've got young players, you need a manager that's really engaged during the game, that's out there communicating with them, almost coaching them through. Postecoglou is not that sort of guy, and that's why, for me, I don't think the recruitment matches up with what he's like. But he's never going to come out and say it until either he's left this football club or he does a press conference like Antonio Conte to a degree where he ends up sacking himself. So he's never really going to say that, and we're never really going to get the answers, because the reality is Conte and Jose Mourinho left the club in similar circumstances, people calling out their tactics, their style of play, saying that they have no clue, they're outdated, etc., etc. But it's only when they left that we started hearing, well, this is what I was asking for. This is what actually went on. You hear similar stuff coming out about the training methods. They don't like the training methods, etc. But the huge problem we've got at Tottenham Hotspur is that you've got players that are dictating the culture. Even Nuno, the player power to get a lot of these managers sacked, just roll over and die and let them take the can. Then when a new manager comes in, we initially see an initial manager bounce, and then they go to do the exact same thing again. And yes, this is a different squad, but we're seeing the exact same sort of attitudes continue, and it's inherent at Tottenham Hotspur. But the main problem we've got is you're bringing in managers, like Jah said it there, we're not bringing in managers that are ready to spar with the opposition to a certain degree. We're bringing in managers that had steadfast beliefs and steadfast philosophies that they've won everywhere they've been. And when they walk in, it's like, what coaching staff do you need? What players do you need? Let's go and get it. So you can bring what you've done here and replicate it here. But when they come to Tottenham Hotspur, we start on, Conte, he wanted to bring coaches in. He wanted to bring specialists in, which is where a lot of them top modern clubs are going. Liverpool brought in a throwing coach, for instance. All the little details matter to them at their football clubs. At Tottenham Hotspur, it doesn't. We're always looking to save a buck. We're always questioning, do you really need this coach? Do you really need that coach? There's not an inherent sort of, from board level down, there's no inherent sort of gearing up this club to win. It's always, how can we save a buck here? How can we save a buck there? And then when you're bringing in managers and you're asking them to change because of what we didn't do, cover up the mistakes in the transfer window and everything else, the reality is they don't know how. They've never been in this situation before where they've had to do this. They've never had to deal with this. And that's why when people are screaming, going, oh, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. Yeah, because he's never had to do this before. He doesn't know how. So for me, I'm actually at the point, Ricky, where I've accepted with Postecoglou, it's not working out. I think, at some point there is going to be a manager change. But I'm not going to sit here and blame everything on Postecoglou, because I've been here more than enough times to realise that the club put these managers in these positions. And the reality is, Jose left, went on and won a Europa Conference League. We got embarrassed in. Antonio Conte, look what he's doing with Napoli now. And you bet. Look at Nuno as well with Forest, by the way. He wasn't deemed good enough. You think Postecoglou won't go to another club and go on and win something there? And we'll be sitting there in envy. Of course he will. So I'm actually at the point, Ricky, where it's, my dad has been saying to me for a long time, look, we know what the ownership are like, but the reality is you need a manager that can come in and just make the best out of a bad situation. And I've always been of the opinion that that's a defeatist attitude towards the ownership, that you should be backing the manager and putting pressure on the ownership to actually implement what you're bringing these managers for. But I'm actually at the point now where I'm beaten down and I'm starting to take the same approach where it's like, just get someone in that can make the best out of this situation for now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, Dave, you've said a lot of how I feel at the moment, that I think where we are right now, and I'll let Ash come in and we'll go to Jah on this, is that whoever comes in and takes this job, and I think, like we've said, it's with Tottenham, there's no guarantee someone will want to take this job, because it's now becoming, I think, a job where people look at it and think, what am I actually going to get in terms of when it comes to money, when it comes to caliber of player, when it comes to opportunity, when it comes to development of players, when it comes to an actual working relationship with an ownership. I question every single one of those points that I've just raised there. And that's why, again, I'm the same as you, Dave. I do not put all the blame on Ange Postecoglou. I actually feel really sorry for Ange Postecoglou. Yep. I feel really sorry for him that he's not been able to play the way in what he wants to do and to be able to recruit the players that he needs to be able to play the way that he wants. And then many surprised when we're not seeing the football that he wants to play because he hasn't got the players to play it. I mean, Ash, let's come to you on this. I know we've got a lot to cover during this show. Where are you with regards to Ange Postecoglou? Is there any part of you that thinks he can rid this noise and turn it around? Or are we yet again letting down another manager and not giving them the tools that they need to be able to do the job that they wanted to come in and do from the first place? We'll get you to unmute, Ash, from your end and come in on that point.
Yeah, so it's a hard one because I understand the first 10 games, the way he spoke was completely different to our previous managers, and the story behind it, like what he did at Celtic. A lot of fans romanced of the idea. I think people love the idea of Ange Postecoglou, what he's about morally. He wants to play pure football. He doesn't want to do dark arts per se. He wants to play in the right way. And we played so much defensive football underneath the 2 to 3 previous managers. It was reminiscent of the Poch era. And because we won the first 10 games, because we were top of the league, and a lot of the players did buy into it. I think this is another issue as well, because a lot of the players were saying, we're behind the manager. Even we heard Romero, obviously he might have alternative motives behind it, but he came out and said, look, if you get rid of the manager, I'm gone. Do you know what I mean? But other players have since come out and said, yeah, you know what? I believe in this manager. He's actually got players in like Dragushin that was on his way to Bayern Munich to get him convinced to sign for the club. We've got Bergvall. He was on his way to Barcelona. I know he was in a cab having a chat with their manager and their board of director. He decided to choose Spurs. We managed to convince Archie Gray, who was talking to Pep, by the way, from Man City. We took him away. And then of recently as well, the new signing, Tell, he was speaking to Langer. And, it wasn't going down. It wasn't going down too well. Langer starts to panic, calls Levy, says, I'm losing this deal. Can you come and help me? Levy jumps in a jet, goes over, tells them about the project, what they're trying to do. And Tell said, I need some more time to think about it. And Levy's like, no, I need to answer right now. And then he's like, you know what? Then forget it. That deal was scropped. And then there was rumors that, the deal was off and he rejected us. And he said, no. All of a sudden, Ange gets on the phone, speaks to the young lad, and he buys into it. He says, like, I like this guy. And apparently they're on the phone for hours. And he really got an understanding of where the direction of what the manager goes into. So I think the big issue as well, on top of like the likability of the guy, is the fact that a lot of these players were bought underneath him. Do you understand? So if he is to go, then what for the players? Do you know what I mean? So there's that kind of worry as well. But then you kind of look at it and you say, oh.
But the senior players, Ash, the senior players, the Sonnies, the Bentancurs, the Basumas, the Stars, these players, Ash.
No, I hear you. And everyone's saying it's the senior players and they're down tools in and they're not showing enough passion.
I'm not sure it's down tools in, but we're not getting a reaction from these players, Ash. We're not getting a reaction from these players.
Regardless, he walked in knowing the height of the job, knowing everything in and out about the club. He knew how Levy was. He knew how Levy operates. He's seen previous managers come in and fail, and he knows what players he's working with. He cleared out over 10 players. Do you know what I mean? In one of his windows, he cleared out over 10 players, and then he got players in, and he was able to work with them. Now you're seeing some of the senior players that he did pick. They're not quite living up to the standard of what he needs to do. But at the same time, if we've lost a goalkeeper, we've lost 2 of our centre backs, 1 of our full backs, the wingers, the midfielders, and the striker. And the season before last, we had a similar issue where it was a mad thing where we lost so many players over injuries. who's to say in another season or even in this season, we're still not going to pick up more injuries? So that's where you have to take a step back and look at things and think, I don't know, like, give him more time. Is he going to be able to swing things around? Is he going to be able to get more out of these senior players? Do you know what I mean? And that's why I go back to that kind of selection when we played. Does he even know his best midfield at the moment? I'm not too sure.
He made 18. He made 18 changes last season to his midfield combination. I want to bring John as well on this point. Ash, very quickly for you, how big is this Aston Villa game? Is it all right on that for you, or do you think he? I mean, like us, I think he'll get to the end of the season. I see no benefit in sacking Ange Postecoglou now. I don't see any uplift from Ryan Mason, Matty Wells until the end of the season. I think let Ange have the job until the summer. Reevaluate from then. I just feel very sorry for him. I think, again, look, it's gone past the point of frustration, anger towards the manager for me. I think he's been badly let down in this window, badly let down in the previous window. The reality is that to do this Tottenham job now, in my opinion, there needs to be a lot more flexibility. And Tottenham, in my opinion, will not give Ange Postecoglou the tools that he needs, the players that he wants. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they are not going to get rid of, again, 14, 15 players. They got rid of 10 last summer. It just isn't going to happen. Anyone who looks at the way Tottenham operate, they just won't do that. So, Ash, very quickly, yes or no, how did this pan out?
No. It's a results-based business at the end of the day. So, like, I think the reason why he's still here, and I agree with you, he will probably get to maybe towards the end of the season, unless there are some heavy defeats, as I said, against Villa, against Manchester United, and we don't beat Man City. That's the team we normally get a result at. If we don't win that game, then that's 3 on a spin. Then questions will have to be answered then. But I just think the club are hiding behind him. I honestly do. I honestly think the club are hiding behind him, and they know if they get rid of him, all eyes are on them. They've got nowhere to hide. So that's my opinion on it.
Listen, on this point, I mean, John, coming over to you, let's not get it twisted here. If it wasn't for Ange Postecoglou, and many might not like the fact I'm going to say this, Tell does not sign for Tottenham, whether you think it's a PR stunt or whatever.
I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. I mean,
you're not sure about that?
Yeah, I'm not so sure because I think there's a lot. It's all business agents trying to get the best deal they can for themselves, and I'm sure that Levy's at some, as because there's money going between the clubs, down payments, HP payments, as it were, for Harry Kane, and I think that might have come in. Who knows what's coming to play there? I'm not so sure.
How do you feel in terms of where we are with the manager, John? I mean, in terms of the manager now, where we are going into Villa, it's a massive game for the football club. It's an FA Cup tie, which I think many are kind of putting their hopes on.
Who would have thought we've gone right down, just floating just above the relegation zone? He's not got the sack. That's unheard of. So maybe they're going to stick with him. I can't really make a call on Ange Postecoglou because he hasn't had the players he would have probably liked.
Yeah.
So until he's got the tools,
But will he ever get them though, John? Will he ever get those tools? Will he ever get those tools?
Maybe we're getting the likes of Gray and Tell. Maybe there, and who knows? Maybe he's chucked a lot of these other younger players into coming, like Gray. Obviously, I mean, Ashley's absolute Gray only come because, as I understand it, because he's a Celtic fan, I think, and had a lot of admiration for Postecoglou, but. Maybe they're going to stick with him all the way to the bitter end. I thought the Brentford game was a big game, and I was very happy we dug a result out, by the way, in that. But maybe if we'd lost that, what I predicted a few weeks ago was that if we go within 5 points of the bottom, and we're out of 2 of the cups, he'll probably go. But right now, it seems incredibly like they're going to stick with him, and what. Maybe into next season. But what you'll see, of course, is a lot of people. You'll have protests, but a lot of people just lose interest, walk away. It tarnishes the brand, even though they're largely about entertainment now. It tarnishes it. But there's a whole thing. Look, what is a football club? Is it the bricks and mortar of the stadium? Is it the players? Is it the fans? Is it the manager? Is it the owners? Of course, it's not. It's a kind of concept we all buy into. We have a concept. That concept at Tottenham, the image, the idea of Tottenham's now quite a tawdry, naff thing. It's something. It's not. It's a bit of a disaster. It's good for banter. It's not really serious. So everyone knows, as Conte rightfully said, put a little bit of pressure on them. Whoever the players are wearing that white shirt, they'll crumble. And you've got owners who I think are really into the building the brand, making a big profit on their initial investment, huge profits they've made, you know, but they're not. I don't think they're particularly excited with the football. I'm sure they'd love to win some stuff because it doesn't hurt, but I don't think that they're particularly, you know, excited with it all. And in the end, to be honest, mate, you know, you start to lose interest. You know.
But I'm seeing so many fans right now that, like you're saying there, John, that are losing interest in the club.
I'm
that
not
they
going.
love.
I'm tending to not go to the games. I've done me back anyway, so it's a bit awkward sitting down. But I mean, the Leicester game I could have gone to, didn't, and I think people just vote with their feet because it's just boring. It's dull. It's not the easiest stadium in the world to get to. So generally, you've got, you know, it's an awkward journey to and from. And you think, do I really fancy that? It's quite a negative vibe in the ground. You know,
Yeah.
it's all gone wrong. I don't think Ange will last. But Tottenham's such a club with such ownership. The decision will be made at the very worst time in the very worst way. So it'll catch us all off guard.
They'll sack him before the Europa League final or something now in Tottenham.
Yeah.
He'll get us to the Europa League final and then they'll sack him and they'll put Ryan Mason and Matty Wells in charge because that's what this Tottenham board would do. There's just no tone deaf when it comes to any understanding of anything.
That's it. And you start with the concept. You just think, what is it? It's an empty concept, and you start to lose the warmth and the passion, and you look. What you lose is the feeling of attachment. And then we all start, because we all tend to argue with each other at times, Spurs fans, you know, and there is something quite cult-like about a lot of the people that are full on Ange. You know, it was always a question mark whether or not he could pull it off in the Premier League. You know, without having the very best players.
I still think, Jar. I still think with the right club that give him the right tools, I think Ange Postecoglou is a good manager. And many might not like me saying that, and kind of say Dave's nodding away there as well. I think if you give Ange Postecoglou the tools that he needs and wants, and I think you're going to give him a certain caliber of players, I think Ange Postecoglou can be successful. The problem being,
go on.
The problem being with Tottenham is I don't think Tottenham will give him those tools. And the thing is,
can I say something? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'd like to agree with you, and I can lean towards agreeing with you. But has he used the squad he's got there? And you have to be pragmatic in life. Has he used that squad as well as he might?
No, he hasn't.
It seems his training methods have caused injury. I know some people would deny that. I just don't think you can put it down to bad luck, you know. So I don't think he's used the squad.
Also, you've had other managers that have had work underneath this ownership as well. Let's not get it twisted. Like, the culture stinks. We've all said it. It's the culture of the club. That's the problem. And it starts from the top. But other managers came in, like Pochettino. He came in and he had to work with a squad of players. He had to work with youngsters. His training methods were really intense. Do you know what I mean? Like Jurgen press style. But he still managed to work within those frameworks. Even Conte got fourth. Like, do you know what I mean? Even within this type of framework. So it's like we can't say, like, if like 1 second, if Ange was 10th with the injuries, I would be like, do you know what I'm saying? I'll give him more benefit of the doubt. But bro, we are like 14th, and I was like, I don't know if that's a step too far.
Yeah,
and I saw it with
our position is unacceptable. Ash, you're right. The position is unacceptable in the league. You can't deny it. You can't deny the position is unacceptable.
We're lucky this year.
But there has to be an understanding. It's the first one to deal without Harry Kane. All them other managers had the beneficiary of Harry Kane, who put goals in the back of the net, and a prime son. Now we're seeing the decline of ball. He's the first manager to manage that. I would argue, if he had a prime Harry Kane and son, would we be sitting here? I don't think we would, and I think that's the big elephant in the room. Like we keep saying with the likes of Jose, Conte, and Mourinho, but we're never going to give them the players they need. Okay, but with Pochettino, he got us so close, but he never got over the line. The reality is, we need better quality players to be able to beat these better quality teams.
Nowadays, it has to come from the top. I saw a thing on YouTube. Please don't be angry at me. John Terry talking about the effect Abramovich had when he came into Chelsea. Okay, he came in with a lot of money, and it was a different era then. 20 years ago, whatever it was. But it was just about, right, what do we need to do to win? What do we need to do? No excuses. We're going to set our stall out to win. All right, they had money. But then again, I'm sure Ennick have got access to money as well, you know. But we're completely and utterly lacking that kind of winners. I once spent an evening with David Barnard. I think he's like chief exec at Chelsea. Lovely. Everyone thought we were going to have a. It's these two are sitting together. It's some charity thing. But he was lovely, and it's so interesting talking to him. I just thought, yes, the attention to detail and winning there, you know.
That is
Just,
promising.
I'm sitting there. I'm just sitting there thinking, I wish we'd had that some degree of, because it's not about fucking money. It's about the fucking intent. And you know, if you've got the fucking intention, you will find a fucking way. There's no intention there. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, mate. You're absolutely fine. I knew. I thought, what time of that swear jar come out?
I'm trying to be cool, but you know, yeah.
We've done nearly an hour. We haven't talked about Villa yet. We need to go to Villa very quickly. Go on, Ash. Come on, do you want to come on that point? Do you want to come on that point there, Ash?
No, I was going to just go back on the Kane point, because obviously I don't want to be reliant on players. Do you know what I mean? I would prefer to build my squad, build my team, and know like you don't have to rely on Kane bailing us out every time. Maybe Kane being out of the squad is showing our actual level. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So, like, I love Kane, bro, to be honest with you. Kane, what he did for us was amazing. Like, when the team wasn't doing well, he'd find a goal. When the team wasn't doing well, he could drop in midfield, play those through balls. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're right. Yeah, prime Kane, prime Son. But I knew Ange. I got a feeling Ange knew Kane was leaving. That's a conspiracy of mine. Do you know what I mean? He knew what he was walking into. And basically, he agreed, like, all right, cool. I'm not going to have my best striker, but don't worry, I'm still going to get the job done. And unfortunately, he's bit off more than he can chew, in my opinion. But, you know.
I mean, on this point, we do need to go discuss Villa very, very quickly. I'm conscious that there's a few different takeaways on their way very, very soon. And that will give it away for listeners all day when we're recording this show. But those takeaways have got to come in and rescue some of our guests here, because we've got to feed them and bathe them.
I've got 5% of power left, and I don't know where my lead is. So we better get to it. If it gets cut off, I've not thrown a sulk and fucked off. If it cuts off, I've run out of power. But carry on. Yeah.
Look, I think at the moment, with regards to that Ange debate, it's one that will keep on rolling and rolling. And look, again, I'll make that point. You know, whilst we'd all
love to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong.
Oh, listen, I'd love to be wrong.
Go into our success, you know.
Yeah. We love to be wrong. Listen, let's see what happens with that. Listen, we know how big this game is for Tottenham in terms of the FA Cup tie against Aston Villa. We're going to turn our attention to that for Tottenham next. Before we do, a very, very quick update, if I can, in terms of the Europa League squad that Tottenham have announced. There's been some adjustments in there. For those that were unaware, Tottenham have named their squad now for the knockout stages of the Europa League, with head coach Ange Postecoglou making a couple of big calls just to bring you up to speed. In terms of what Spurs have and haven't done, Jed Spence, that was left out of the league phase squad, has been brought in, as is Matis Tel. And alongside Matis Tel, of course, you've also got in there Tottenham's new signing, Kevin Danso. With Tottenham making those decisions, they had to leave out Radu Dragic, of course, who is out for the season. In addition to that, Tottenham have also left out Fraser Forster and also left out Timo Werner, which hopefully gives you some indication for those that aren't massive Timo Werner fans that it does appear that his time at Tottenham is coming to a close. One man that's unlucky to miss out, of course, is Anton Kinski. He, of course, has dropped out of the Europa League squad, which has enabled Tottenham, of course, to keep with Vicario in there as well when he's going to come back fit. And maybe gives you an indication of where Ange sees that goalkeeping battle, the fact that he's picked Vicario in the squad, as opposed to the fact of giving Kinski the opportunity. So just to be clear, the three players Tottenham put in that Europa League squad for the next stage: Jed Spence, of course, Kevin Danso and Matis Tel. Those missing out: Fraser Forster, Timo Werner, and Radu Dragic. Now, in terms of Ange's press that was held on the Friday, Ange Postecoglou did confirm the news that we all were probably expecting, and that is that Richarlison is definitely out of the game. He will miss it. We're still waiting at the moment with regards to how long his time frame will be out. Ange was asked if he's given the players direct feedback after that game against Liverpool, and he said, look, the players right now, they've come back at 2 a.m. in the morning. They need their sleep. They need to prepare. They will get all the feedback that they need ahead of this game. And I think, look, a lot of the press has been guided around the fact of the pressure on Ange. And whilst, again, he's understanding of the fact that there will always be pressure there if you're not winning football matches and losing them in the magnitude of Liverpool, the reality is that this Villa game comes at a time where it's a crunch week for Tottenham. It's a week where Tottenham probably do need to get a result to quieten down more noise over him. Let's go to Ash on this. Ash, this game against Aston Villa away. I know many out there are already thinking the concerns about Aston Villa away because it's not the most easiest place to go to. They've had a bit of an up and down season. The chances are Marcus Rashford will make his debut. And just to be very, very clear, it'll kill me for not saying it. I think Anthony Costa's already got a 10-1 on Marcus Rashford opening the scoring for Aston Villa. What's your feeling about the game? That's a tenner on there. That's Jar's takeaway on its way. You can tell by the mobile phone ringing off there. Let's go to Ash very quickly. It is. Let's go to Ash very quickly. Ash, how do you see Villa playing out for you?
Listen, you know what's funny? We actually got a good record against Villa at Villa Park. So you just can't call it with Spurs. You just never know. Like when everyone expected us to lose against Brentford, we ended up winning. So like when things are really bad, all of a sudden we get a win. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens. However, I did hear in Ange's presser that, you know, the lads didn't have much sleep. They've had like 48 hours. They're going to have 48 hours rest. It's going to be the same 11 more or less that played yesterday. So there's going to be a lot of tired feet. Morale's going to be really low. And I'm not sure how he's going to pick or who he's going to pick. I would assume that maybe Sarr would come out and Bergvall will come in. And it's going to be interesting on the perspective of Aston Villa. Aston Villa, they've not only just got Rashford coming in, they've got Asensio coming in as well. Morgan Rogers is really a concern for me. He's been the form player. He's the one to watch out for. And Spurs don't really defend that right-hand side really well. And Morgan Rogers likes to pop up on the left in that kind of half space, in that pocket. And if Kulusevski is playing right wing, then on that right wing, there's a concern for me because he doesn't double up whoever's playing the right back. Sometimes that right back's a little bit exposed because he doesn't always run back and defend the way he needs to protect that fullback. So yeah, Morgan Rogers is a worry. The player that we were linked with, Aaron Ramsey, he might start on the left as well, so he might cause a few issues. And then also you've got Bailey as well. Bailey will play on the right, so it might not even be Asensio, or Rashford starting. They might put Marlon, the guy. He's actually played up front for Borussia Dortmund. He's played on the left wing and the right wing, so they've got so many options going forward. It's going to be it's going to be nerve-wracking at times against that tired team. So it all depends on how the players respond to the defeat, and if Ange can motivate them to kind of step up against Villa Park. But as I said before, we do have a good record there. My concern is now Tell is going to have to step up in that position, and I wonder if they're going to play maybe Son up front and Tell on the wing, or is Scarlett going to get a look in? I don't know. It's going to be. There's a few places
just
that
to be very clear. Scarlett is cup tied for this one, so he can't feature.
Oh, yes.
So Dane Scarlett is not available. So, I
yeah.
think it will be a case, Ash, of going with really the same players that he's had to go with over the course of the last however many weeks. Obviously, minus Richarlison, which is going to be very, very tough. I'm going to come back around you shortly if I can, Ash, for your prediction. Again, I want to bring Jah in on this point at Aston Villa, and obviously their form going into this one. Look, they left it late, of course, to get their own route to this round of the FA Cup, albeit in extra time against West Ham United. They've only picked up just 2 victories from their subsequent 6 matches across all competitions. They've just come off the back of beating Celtic by 4 goals to 2 in their progression to the last 16 of the Champions League. I think it's fair to say that their form in the Premier League hasn't been that great. You know, they lost to Wolves recently 2-0. I think as we made that point there, Spurs have won 6 out of the last 10 against Aston Villa. But the reality is that we know Spurs are going there decimated by injuries. They're not in tremendous form away from home. It would have a lot of fans concerned in the nature of what we're going to expect now from Tottenham. Are we going to see a reaction from those senior players after such a horrendous performance up at Liverpool? I mean, surely, John, they can't do that to us twice, can they, in the space of a week? Surely we're going to get some kind of a reaction, aren't we?
Oh, it could well be that they capitulate. Yeah, it really is. But you know, Liverpool, Aston Villa are fighting a war on 3 or 4 fronts. Is Rashford cup tied? Probably
No,
not.
Rashford is available for this game, and Marco
Oh,
Asensio
yeah.
is in line to make his debut.
Oh.
Villa, just on that point, Villa do have out. I believe they've got. I think there's some doubts over Ollie Watkins, Pau Torres, Matty Cash, Tyrone Mings, and Ross Bartley. A lot of them will be either unavailable or there are doubts over them. Again, there's a spotlight around Rashford playing, and I think as Ash has alluded to there, Leon Bailey, they've got Marlon that can also play, but Asensio can play that central role, and I think has been linked to Tottenham in the past. So. Yeah.
Can you imagine Rashford up against Porro
Oh.
on his debut? So,
Don't.
Look, my head tells me Villa will win 3-0. I'm going to go for Aston Villa 1, Tottenham Hotspur 3. Because why not? You just think maybe would tell. Maybe you think they get together in the dressing room and they say, let's go out and fight. Let's go out and fight. Can we manage? Can we just go out and fight for 90 minutes and extra time if we just go out and fight and do something? You'd like to think they could make life hard. I was hoping that was yesterday. I had a hunch, completely wrong, of course. Why I should never bet that we would win. I thought we'd nick a 1-1 draw.
I agree. There's something about I thought we were going to do something there, which is the worst because you've got that hope inside you. Stupidly, you have that hope. You think, why have I got this hope? I don't know why we had hope. It's Anfield. We've won there once in the last.
And why have I got hope? Why am I telling you Tottenham's going to win 3-1? It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
But I had a funny. I had a funny feeling we'd get a result at Brentford, and we did.
Yeah.
I think with his, Bergvall's fit, isn't he? He's come on a bomb.
Bergvall will be fit to play.
Bit surprised he didn't start against Liverpool.
Yeah. Can I just say on Bergvall very quickly? George summed it up for me. I think I've got to say this, John, as you're here. Just on Bergvall, for those that didn't or wasn't aware of this, Ali Gold said after the game, and this again, I think many maybe have missed this or weren't aware of this. Lucas Bergvall
made him grab Bentancur. Yeah,
it's saw Bentancur leaving the pitch after the game, and it took Lucas Bergvall, 18 years of age, Lucas Bergvall, to tell Bentancur, come back here and go and clap the away fans, the 6,000 of the Tottenham fans that travelled. I mean, if that tells you and shows you just what is wrong right now in relation to our senior players, you've got a young kid there in Lucas Bergvall, 18 years of age, having to go and instruct Rodrigo Bentancur, one of the seasoned pros in that changing room, to go and tell him to go and clap the away fans. I mean, that pretty much sums up where we are as a football club right now. It is an absolute mess. And I feel for you, Jar, because look, bless you, my dad always says to me, as you get older, that wait gets even longer and longer. I've barely seen anything in terms of Spurs' success. So it's a really difficult point.
You start to realise it's probably unlikely I'm ever going to see Tottenham win something before I die.
It's so
because
sad.
it's that mate. But you never know what happens. You can predict everything but the future, as they say. Maybe they're going to stick with Ange.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to say that's it. We're going to stick with him. We like the way he doesn't complain publicly. We like that. He's a full guy in a way. That's great.
I just feel,
maybe they'll stick with him, and maybe they'll just incredibly, maybe they'll turn the corner. I'll never forget Alex Ferguson. He was on the verge of the sack. I remember how Kendall, I think it was, on the verge of the sack at one point years ago. But Sir Alex Ferguson was the big example of a guy.
Yeah,
he's about to get the sack, and just won a game suddenly. And that's football. And if I try and I'm not convinced by Ange at all. I think it's potentially he's out of his depth. I could well be wrong, because as we've agreed, it's hard to judge if he hasn't got the exact players he needs. But I've been proven wrong about Graham Bergvall, because I just thought they were ridiculous signings, because I felt we needed a proper defensive midfielder, and we needed a proper centre half or two brought in, and we needed a proper striker, like ready to go, not a couple more youngsters who I weren't sure about. But to be fair, more power to them. They've really stood up to the challenge, and I hope they're both fit for Sunday. Let's go. I mean, you just can't. You just want to just think, isn't it? Aren't there any leaders there just to get everyone together and say, right, let's go. Let's go and get it. Just do this.
And also on that point, I must just say there, I did say it was just Bergvall pulling up Bentancur. He also pulled up Kulusevski as well, just to bring that into fairness there. Kulusevski also had to be told by Lucas Bergvall. I mean, again, this is crazy that these words are leaving my mouth. I can't believe that these words are leaving my mouth, that I'm having to sit here and say that certain players of a younger vintage are having to go and tell the senior players to go and applaud the 6,000 Tottenham away fans that just saw their team get battered 4-0 in a semi-final. I mean, what is coming out of my mouth these days?
I can see that, but I think if you're a seasoned pro and your pride's hurting, and I can understand that. I want to get off this pitch. I don't deserve any applause. I just want to get off the pitch, get in the shower. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to have been part of this. You know, could have been. I mean, I only saw the game. It's the first game I've not watched live because I was working. Yeah. So, and I wouldn't even watch it, but I was coming on tonight, so I watched the game. Oh, it was horrible. It's horrible. You know, it's like it was horrible. They were just aggressive with us all over the pitch, bullying us. You know. By the way, I thought it was a red. Not that, with Van Dijk. I thought that was a red with the elbow. You know, anyone else but Liverpool, that's a red, isn't it? I would have thought, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I know again that split a lot of opinions out there. I just think we can only deal with now what's in front of us, and what's in front of us is Aston Villa. And Dave, to come over to you, I mean, Johnny Jar there thinks that we could potentially win the game, but his head tells him otherwise. Ash, what are you going for? Quickly, prediction wise, what are you going for? And then we can close with Dave.
I'm going for 2-1 to Villa.
2-1 to Villa. Okay.
Yeah, that's what my head says, but obviously the heart says,
Yeah.
A victory for Spurs.
What does your head and your heart tell you, Dave, for this?
Just quickly, just want to say on the Bergvall, Bentancur and Kulusevski thing, there's no excuse for it. It should be mandatory when you sign for this football club. As soon as the game's finished, win, lose or draw, you go and applaud your away fans. These players are well able to stay on the pitch after other games and talk to their mates, footballers on the pitch and stuff like that, even when we lose, draw, play bad and stuff like that. So there's absolutely no excuse. I do take the point that pride and their ego are probably damaged, but then don't stay on the pitch when we've lost other games talking to your buddies and stuff like that. But when it comes to this game tomorrow, look, Ricky, I'm just going to be quick here. I'm actually at the point, Ash said, it's impossible to predict this Tottenham team this season. What's the point of even trying to do it heading into this game? Just where I'm at, look, the fans done their job. I think most people parked in, Ange out, Enoch in, Enoch out before that game, got behind the team, and we were let down. It's now up to them to produce a performance and a result that gets us back behind it. Let's see if they can do it this weekend.
Yeah, let's see if they can do it. And I think we appreciate right now that there's such a split in terms of the Spurs fan base. There'll be many that are in agreement with what we're saying. There'll be many that aren't in agreement with what we're saying. And all I would say to you right now is that, look, again, for me, it's something personal against Ange Postecoglou. I actually feel really sorry for the guy. And I also worry about his health. And again, many don't think, what am I talking about? That guy just doesn't look well. He's cast in the same face, bless him, that the same managers have at this football club. When they walk in to when they walk out, the guy doesn't look well at the moment. And that's why, again, any job of this nature takes its toll on him. He's not a young man either, which is why, again, for me, it goes beyond anything personal with Ange. Again, he's a human being. I believe he wants the best for this football club. And at the end of the day, I really do feel for him that I don't think he's been given the tools that he needs to succeed here. But I also do think that the job itself has come to a point where I think it's also very hard to turn this around. There's a lot of noise, and I think with a lot of noise, it comes very, very hard to reverse that noise. So, look, we'll see. It's a massive game for Tottenham. Can they keep alive their FA Cup hopes? Will there be any magic of the Cup? I want to say a massive thank you to these wonderful free talkers, the wonderful Ash Matic over at Spurs Kings. Ash, we've got Marlon back with us on Sunday. Bless his heart. Oh, God knows what he's letting himself in for. Ash, thank you so much. I'm going to see you very, very soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, man. Love as always. Big up the chat and people listening in the morning. Big up.
Ash, we love you very much. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you coming back for more in such a difficult stage. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful musician who, can I say, many have suggested in the live chat here, a lot of the viewers and listeners, God, they've made Jar sit up for this one. What's going on? He was laying down in the previous one. They've sat him up. Jar, so sorry.
I was ready to go at 10-2. I was fired up for this tonight. I want to say some stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Jar, thank you so much. And we are going to get you back on here. I just feel bad because every time I get you back on here, I feel like, what am I putting this guy through? It does feel like a trauma at the moment, doesn't it? Talking about Tottenham, having to talk about him's enough. Having to watch
it's been a fucking life sentence following this club, and I feel sorry what I've done. My sons. But why do you make the Spurs fans? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. You living up north. I could have took it down Man United when they won the fucking triple. City's up the road. City's the nearest fucking Premier League. The poor kids. What have I done to them? Give him a
Joe,
life of fucking
I've done
misery.
quite
you
well,
know?
haven't we? We've only had 8 swear words, Joe, and it's
Sorry,
only
you
before the
are.
watershed. We've done really. I think we've done quite well tonight. That's an improvement on
Sorry.
the previous one. So we want to keep.
Yeah,
Let's keep this standing up, Joe. Keep going. You've been amazing. We love you very much. We're gonna hopefully see Joe again before the end of the season. That's if I can get him back on here if he doesn't say no to me, because it is tough at the moment. Crackers sends you his love, as Kim does as well, Joe. We know it's tough
good old
times at the
Crackers,
moment.
Yeah.
He loves you very much. It's tough right now. Dave, bless you. You've been a trooper. You've also been on here non-stop. Oh, Dave, thank you so much. We know it's tricky, but there's such a love out there for the community of Last Word on Spurs. I said this actually on every show, that I'm sure the same for you, Dave. If you didn't have the community of people that love and watch and devote so much time for the show and tells you how much it helps them, I'm not sure whether we could keep on doing it. And I'm sure you'll feel the same, and so does probably Ash as well, and probably John for watching it. It's tough, isn't it, Dave, at the moment?
Look, it's very tough to keep rolling your face out there and, just speak negatively about a club that you love every single week, because
it's meant to be fun. And I must just say this, Dave, it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be fun.
Yeah.
It isn't fun at the moment.
Well, that's why I got into it. I wanted to have a bit of fun, around my football club. I just maybe missed the boat, I missed the Pochettino era, unfortunately. But do you know what? In a way, it helps as well to a large degree, because I woke up this morning and feel like I'm after breaking up with my girlfriend, which I haven't, by the way. Don't be alarmed, but it felt like that after last night. And coming on to these shows, it sort of helps you, in terms of talking out and stuff like that. And sometimes you realize, look, football isn't the be all and the end all sometimes. So, look, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure. I love coming on here, and thank you to everyone for listening to me.
Bless you, Dave. Thank you so much. And thanks also to the nearly 7,500 that have watched this show live on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, on all the platforms out there. Thank you so much. Look, let's hope that Spurs are going to bring a bit of magic of the cup on Sunday. And, of course, get the result against Aston Villa. Look, get behind the team, get behind the manager. And yeah, let's see where it takes us. From the wonderful musician Jah Wobble, from the superb Ash over at Spurs Kings TV, from the brilliant David at the Orange Hotspur, we have been the Last Word on Spurs. We will see you on the back of Aston Villa. Thank you so much for your time. And as always, come on, you Spurs.